butt-ass naked thing was crazy. I mean, you get cars stolen out of your parking lot and like people breaking and entering, those are the tough parts about the business. Like you don't have any control over that, but and it's a business. Mental health's a big thing, anxiety, depression, it's hard, but like you have to be that person that makes that change or wants that change in your life. You can't control circumstances. You can control your reaction to circumstances. Quote that, people. We take life too serious sometimes, and all you can do at the end of the day is, you go through it. I tell you that all the time because like Hayden is like, he gave me this opportunity. I've done the work, but like the rooms he's pushed me to be in.
Force Hunter and take some risk in his career now, but it's just we have to do it. And we took what we learned with. I was in charge of a bunch of sailors and a nuclear reactor, and he was in charge of hotels. And we took those learnings and just doubled down, and poured into it. And it's turned out phenomenal. I think one of the best parts about our story is I hired you the week that wholesaling became illegal. I think that's one of the craziest parts.
In an old pawn shop, up on the shelf, there was an old microphone. He tried it out for himself. His name is Russ. He bought that mic, and now he's got a podcast show.
Welcome to the Blue Cup Podcast. Like, subscribe, and click the bell. You know what to do. Very excited for these guests today. These guys are so impressive, and some of the things that they're doing in real estate just amaze me. And it's consistency, it's doing the right thing at the right time, and pivoting. We've had to pivot a lot, boys, right? The last couple of years since I've known you, There's been a lot of, well, let's go this way and that way until we find the way. So we're not going to talk a whole lot about real estate and strategy today, but I'm sure it'll leak into the conversation, and there's always something to learn from each other. But we really just want to get to know you because that's the most important thing. So start with Hunter, and maybe you can fill us in. I think you guys went to high school together. Were you in the same graduating class or no?
Yeah, Hunter tells this story pretty good.
For sure. Yeah, my last name being Aldridge, I was always that first chair in every class. And it was actually, we met starting freshman year of high school. I walked in and I think it was like geography or something. I don't know, it's history, something, one of those. And Mr. Burns was his name. Yeah. Mean dude. But anyways, I was the second seat and I was like, what's going on with this, man? I'm always first seat. What's going on here? And dude walks in and, that's kind of where the story was started. And sits down. I'm like, hey man, what's your name? Where do you come from? He's like, yeah, I just moved down from Pennsylvania. My name's Hayden. And, we actually got the same initials exactly too, HJA, but it was the ALP and the AL.
Outranked you by one letter in the alphabet.
That was it, man. That was it. Yeah, that was kind of, and then it carried on all through high school. We were in most of the same classes together. We were kind of smart, so we were in some pretty good classes together, and he was always right in front of me. So yeah, and I didn't shut up during class. Probably bugged the bejesus out of him every day.
I love it. So we're looking for funny high school stories or adventures or troublemaking, whatever was happening.
Oh, probably mainly me not shutting up during class, man. I'm a talker. That carried on in life for sure. That was the main reasons why I needed to get into a sales-focused position. I'm like, I can talk to a fence post. And most of the time it was me talking to the back of Hayden's head and him not being able to listen or something. We also played football together throughout high school, and then Hayden was a big wrestler. But yeah, man, high school, it's like a blur. I joke around. I always say stuff to him from that being our hometown. He's like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I'm like, how do you not remember that, dude? Come on.
That's me. So what's the hometown?
Hickory, North Carolina. About an hour north of Charlotte.
Yeah, furniture capital of the world. At least
furniture capital. That's right. My dad had a very brief job in High Point.
Yeah,
in a furniture manufacturing. He was a plant manager for a furniture factory in High Point for a very short time. And it was such a short time that my mother and I never even joined him living there because he burned out so fast before he could even get that. But he did a lot of that in the future. So Hickory, North Carolina, you were playing football together. What position did you play?
I was center.
Center. Yeah, you are a full-size human. So I understand that.
Like
my college roommate was the center on the football team, and he was a full-size human. Yeah. And Hayden, you played quarterback?
No, I didn't have very much hand-eye coordination, so That's why I was a good wrestler, and so I poured
Oh,
into
okay.
that. And so I was a state champ wrestler, but football was not my thing. I played tight end and defensive end, and so
Yeah,
I
you
did do
take
some training when we went and hit the sled and
Yeah.
stuff together. And
They locked us fat boys in we actually had a big lineman cage separate from the practice field. So it looked like a playground, but it was for the fat boys. And then unfortunately, since tight end, he had to do a little blocking. So
yeah,
he'd have to come over there with the fat boys sometimes and run through those drills and stuff like that. But I was a late bloomer too, man. I was shit. When I got my driver's license at 16, I looked like I was 10 years old. So I think I was like 5'9", 5'10". I looked like a tank. I had no neck. I was just this I think I was a big boy in middle school too, like 220, I
love
think.
it.
Yeah, that. And then my junior and the senior year, I think I went, hit a growth spurt, got up to 6'2", and, a little bit later in life, my brother's the same way. He was, getting recruited. He was 6'3", and then his freshman year of college, he's 6'7" now. So like, we're all
Wow.
late bloomers. Yeah. I had my driver's license. I would pull up to like drive-throughs and I'm like, hey, I need to get an order, because I was always getting called yes ma'am and stuff. I'm like, dude, this is killer. Um,
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. And Hunter, you and I have talked about before, you had kind of an interesting college experience.
Yeah,
Interesting
so out of
choice.
high school, I was always wanting to be an engineer. I loved math and science, and
Yep.
I'm a huge Wolfpack fan. Go Pack, baby. I grew up going to the games, being a little kid, especially. I wasn't as good as, I didn't work the best. I let talent, hard work will outdo talent all day. I kind of learned that in high school. I think being a late bloomer too, lifting weights and stuff like that, muscle mass was difficult. But long story short, I was going into engineering is what I wanted to do. So my dream was to go to NC State. Being a little kid, of course, the dream was to play football at NC State. I quickly found out that wasn't going to happen. But engineering was what I wanted to do. First time I went to an airport, I was fascinated with airplanes. I wanted to do aeronautical engineering. My dad had gone to school for engineering, had me, so he didn't finish. But he's like, you should do something a little more broad, like try mechanical engineering where you have, more job opportunities. So that's what I did. I applied to, my whole ticket was NC State. Like, I didn't want
Yep.
care anything else, like NC State. So that's the number one engineering school in North Carolina. I applied to state. I also applied to the undeclared college, because you had to apply to two different things. My parents both went to UNC Charlotte. I was an hour from the house. I had never been to Charlotte, did not care to go to Charlotte, but I just put in one other application. Just, I didn't need backups, but that was my backup, so to speak. And I ended up getting waitlisted at state, was heartbroken. I was like, dude, this is bullshit, man. I was pissed, that was my dream. And I grew up going to the state games. My aunt and uncle are heavily involved in athletics and donors there. And
Yes.
we got a lot of good friends who were.
It makes sense from Hickory to Raleigh. So my father has an engineering degree from NC State,
Okay. Yep.
and he went straight to Vietnam as a helicopter pilot out of ROTC at NC State. And my mother went to ECTC, which you don't know what that is because it's now East Carolina University.
Okay.
It used to
Gotcha.
be East Carolina Teachers College,
Okay.
and now it's called East Carolina. So my dad's from the Low Country, and my mother's from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, if you know where that is.
I think we talked about that, because that's where my dad
Yeah.
went to school, was in Rocky Mount. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, small. I mean, I can't think of a smaller town.
Good barbecue, baby.
Good barbecue. Bob Melton's was my favorite.
Oh, the real barbecue, that vinegar base.
That's
That
great.
Was,
So you're in college. The football dreams are not happening.
no.
So what was the next? There was a new dream, though. I know about it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I got waitlisted at state, and then I got directly into UNC Charlotte for mechanical engineering. So I was, I ended up later on, I got double waitlisted at state, and then I kind of got excited. You're 18 years old, you've been brainwashed that college is the way to go for your whole life. So I'm like, it's actually funny enough, I've never been to Charlotte's campus. And when I got accepted, I got a little excited, because I'm like, okay, well, I got accepted somewhere. And I pulled up online, they had a virtual tour. And I remember looking at it, I'm like, this is a pretty school. This is nice, kind of deal. And ultimately getting straight into mechanical engineering, I was like, heck yeah. Well, I got hurt in football my sophomore year. I had to have a screw put in my hip I think I was 15. It was that summer. So I missed my sophomore year of football. I always loved to sing, man. I wouldn't shut up as a kid, MP3 player, Backstreet Boys, whatever it is. My dad was always like, will you shut the hell up? because I just would, the worst times in the car, I don't stop talking. He knows this.
I have to walk
I go,
away frequently. I'm late. I'm leaving. I'm walking away. Hunter, I'm okay, bye. And he's still talking.
like yelling down the hallway, hey, let's finish the conversation. I love singing. I did it. It was kind of a joke. Like, it really was. It was our fullback, Brandon Owensby, actually. We were good buddies since we were little kids. And, deep down, I think I had never done choir before. And I was like, I'm thinking about, we should take a choir, bro. And here I am, I'm going into sophomore year. I'm on crutches forever. And I signed up. Brandon bailed on me. He totally dropped the class and got in there, and I did not really fit in, so to speak. I was very uncomfortable. There was tons of kids, and this dude had been building, apparently, like a lot of people. I guess he was going down to the middle school. Long story short, there was like 100+ kids in this choir one class, and a little bit, off from the jock world of like kind of how I grew up and people I was around, and I felt super uncomfortable, and I'm on crutches, and in a vulnerable position anyways. And I ended up, one chick was a cheerleader, and it took that one conversation to where I met her, and I was like, I'll stay in here. I'll stick it out. And I think the path was interesting. Like, it was weird at first. Like, obviously I could sing, but I had never been, my grandfather was a pastor. We weren't in church like as much as we should have been. I played travel baseball growing up, so a lot of weekends were baseball. So we weren't heavily in that. I never sang in a church choir. So I didn't have very good skills of like sight reading and things like that. So I was probably timid in there. You got to get comfortable until you really show how you can sing. And it was kind of a joke to me until I found out there was 2 choirs for the high school that you had to audition for. They were going to New York City, and I had never traveled before. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm going to do that just to go to New York City. And I remember the guy, I talked a lot. So I was always kind of that class clown figure, so to speak. But long story short, man, I ended up singing and doing it. And I did enjoy singing, and I was very talented. I don't know what it is. Something I decided, I looked into it. I'm like, maybe I should minor in music. The teacher at the high school actually had a conference with my parents and was like, listen, he's the most talented, like, male singer I've probably came across, and like, he really be wasting his, given talents if he doesn't do something with it.
Huh.
So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll minor in music. Man, I didn't even know a damn key on the piano, brother. I didn't know anything. I'm sitting here, I'm like, music's going to be a joke. This will be super easy. And I had my first solo in my senior year. And I remember, like, got up there, kicked ass, took names, felt like a beast, so to speak. And that was the time where my dad's brother was there, and he like looks at my dad and he's like, if he wants to do this, you need to let him do it. Like, that was crazy. Like, we had no idea he could do that. I had no idea. I ended up being an opera singer. I had no idea that I could sing opera at that time. Like I said, I was a late bloomer, so I kind of had this like soft tenor, Irish tenor voice, so to speak. Yeah, to make a long story short, I went in, got accepted for my minor, thought about it, and was like, maybe I like this music thing. I changed my major from mechanical engineering to majoring in vocal performance the day before my freshman year of college. First class was piano, man. I sit down and we're all in front of our own piano. And I'm like, this is going to be a joke, and this is going to be super easy. And she's like, put your right thumb on middle C. And I'm like, I don't know what middle C is. I don't know anything. I looked at the girl beside me. I'm like, hey, what's middle C? And she listened. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, I wouldn't ask if I didn't know, type of deal. And man, it came quick where I was like, I'm going to flunk out of fucking college. Like, here I am in music thinking this is going to be easy. And boy, I was wrong, man. Like, it was certain aspects of it I was really good at because of math, like writing, like the theoretical.
Right. Because music is math.
Yeah. But like the hearing part and like, piano's tough, man. You're doing 2 different things with your hands, like 2 rhythms. And yeah, it wasn't easy, but
I was playing my son's 10 months old, and I was playing his piano this morning. There's only 5 keys on it, and I couldn't even get any type of sound out of it.
I love it.
We both have little babies right now, so we're
yeah. You both are young fathers at this point, or young fathers of young children.
I was always competitive, so I was very good at singing. And I met my teacher up there at Charlotte. He was an opera singer, and he was fairly new, been there a few years. His wife was the doctoral cello professor there. Super smart people, but he kind of took me under his wing and started teaching me how to sing. And I told you I was a late bloomer, probably. Fast forward. So there's this competition called NATS, which is like all the colleges get together. It starts out at like a state level, and
Yep.
then, it goes to regional and then ultimately to like a national thing. And it was my freshman year. And I knew I was talented in comparison to a lot of kids at Charlotte, but like Charlotte had a music school,
Right.
but not like a, renowned one or anything like popular. Like the only reason I was there was because it was a good engineering school. And I just happened to switch and they had, it was convenient that they had a music school. And I went to that competition though, and they put freshmen, because we're all 18 years old, in like a small, and I'd been taking lessons with this guy, and I had a big voice for my age. And I'll never forget, I was super competitive. So I'm here. I was the first person of the day. And they put me in this little room, like a practice room. And I got 4 teachers, the judges, right in front of me. And they're like writing stuff on their papers. So all their heads are down. And my pianist starts playing. And the minute the first note comes out, all their heads are like, whoop, like popped up. And, I went through my 3 pieces, smashed it. And I'll never forget, the one lady like looks at the person beside her and she's like, I'm not supposed to talk to you right now, she said. She's like, but how old are you? And I was like, I'm 18. She's like, holy cow. She was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And I remember calling my dad immediately and I was like, yeah, I'm the first person to win today, but like something tells me they've never heard anything like that from the reaction. Like they weren't supposed to talk to me, like all this. And then, calls. I called him and then I won first place in North Carolina. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then I got to go to Maryland at University of Maryland. And I won, I think, first place in the regional. And this competition started growing because ultimately I ended up winning first place in the United States. I think my teacher I was an underclassman, made me compete against the upperclassmen division because of my talent. And I ended up taking first place. And it was so funny because they were all going to grad school and, singing. And they're like, where are you going to grad school next year? I'm like, hey man, I'm a sophomore, baby. And they're like, dude, shut up. I'm like, yeah. So I ended up, went through some hardships in college, man. I just wasn't in the right mindset. I don't know. I wasn't the positive person I am now. I've learned a lot through my experience and kind of going through hell, so to speak, and not being in the best head place to get to who I am today. That's why I finally believe, mental health's a big thing. Anxiety, depression, it's hard, but like you have to be that person that makes that change or wants that change in your life. And I met a great mentor later on in my journey who really taught me like optimism and positivity and the fact that you can't control circumstances. You can control your reaction to circumstances. Quote that, people. Circumstances are 100% uncontrollable, but your reaction to circumstances is 100% controllable. Yes. We take life too serious sometimes, and all you can do at the end of the day, no matter how
got a big thumbs up from Ryan. He's going to tell
you go through it. So that was a big deal getting through, but I wasn't doing good. My teacher was pushing me for grad school, and I ended up, I had a lot of auditions. I sang for somebody with Juilliard, and they're like, no questions asked. Juilliard, ironically, is not like a huge opera school, even though it's on Manhattan. The Metropolitan Opera is great, but the colleges there, Manhattan School of Music and Juilliard, aren't the best for opera. So Indiana University, which is out in the middle of the cornfields, the Hoosiers, you wouldn't think, but they've got probably the top opera program. They spend a lot of money. Like the campus is incredible. I mean, it's like a 3-tiered mezzanine stage. It's the second largest performing arts center in the United States, behind the Metropolitan Opera. And I went out there to sing for the guy.
Is that the?
No, it's in Bloomington. Yeah,
Bloomington. Okay,
but they do have like branches, like IUPUI or something like that. I don't remember.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I went out there and sang with a guy named Andreas Polimenos. He's like 70-something years old. He's a beast.
Yeah.
And I went out there and we just knocked it off, man. And I'm like, this is obviously like the best place you could be. And when you're in opera, like the school's important, but like who you're studying with and who you're, as males, our voices aren't really mature until we're in our 30s. So you need to be in like a good position of someone who's teaching you, healthy, style or technique, and really getting that foundation set for when your voice is 100% mature. School's just in opera, I like to say it's a bridge to your professional career, staying busy, learning music, doing all those things that, get you to that career path where you get paid ultimately. But yeah, I auditioned there. I ended up being the #1 audition at the school. I got a full scholarship. I mean, that was out of state, was like something like it's close to $100,000 education out of state for your grad school.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I got like the highest scholarship was like 99.5% or some craziness. And I was a teacher, so I got a paycheck. I got, insurance coverage through the school. But man, I talk about the mindset. I almost didn't go. I worked in hotels as well. My dad's been a GM
Right.
for
I remember that.
my entire life. And I was thinking about, like, I really wasn't doing good. I mean, I barely got through undergrad. It felt like it was never ending. I'm not a school person. I hate school. And even opera, man, there's so much more. It's not just singing. A lot
But
of
you
that.
didn't hate school when it was something that you were passionate about.
Yeah.
You
Even
hated
then, though,
school
like,
when
I love
when
singing.
other people are telling you what to study. But when you were passionate about it, you loved it.
Yeah.
I
But that
can
was the thing
hear
with
it.
opera is, like, I loved singing,
Yes.
but I didn't love all the shit that, like, went into it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
foreign languages, like, I have a funny joke because I was a goofball in undergrad. Like, we'd be singing in Italian, and we were doing this big opera, La Boheme, and I was playing Rodolfo, and I was notorious. Like, all of us were. We were undergrad, we were young. We weren't learning what everybody's saying, but you're acting, so you have to, like, how am I supposed to, even in English, like, how am I supposed to act with you if I don't know what you're saying? But we didn't. We faked it till you make it. And I remember my teacher stopped me because I was singing La Fiamma, which is the flame or fire, and I was holding up a water bottle, and he's like, "Stop." He's like, "What are you saying right now?" I was like, "That is a good question." And he's like, "You're singing the flame, man, like fire. You're supposed to be pointing at the fireplace, and you're picking up and I'm like, "I'm putting out the fire, baby." I had a tremendous talent. I didn't hear many kids that were singing like me at that age, but I struggled. I loved the whole process of, like, singing, and I was super talented, but that work to be really great, I wasn't passionate enough about it to where I was, studying the languages, really learning, this is 400, 500 pages of music that you need to be learning a foreign language. And
Oh,
I
wow.
never was in acting. I didn't do plays and stuff like that. So it was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but ultimately, like, it was a love-hate relationship because I did love it. I can't sit here and lie and say I didn't. My mindset, I ran from fear. Anxiety, I believe, is procrastination and fear. Instead of, if I was in the headspace I'm in now and, like, how I see things, different person. But at that time, I had to go through that path, realizing I was super anxious, not handling it well because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I was avoiding it and I was scared. And instead of hitting it head on, I talk big about eating the frog, and we make these tough phone calls and what we do on a daily basis. You're going to feel so much better if you just hit it head on that day. Be courageous. But if you avoid those things and you're scared and you have fear and you don't take those chances, that's where anxiety, I believe, is heavily built up. And then it's just going to go downhill from there. So be courageous, man. That's the big thing.
Yeah. I like what you said about, and I'm going to put a label on it, learned optimism. Like, somebody had to teach me how to be optimistic.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself, and it's kind of what I heard from you, and the mindset of what I think is who I am. And it's funny because when my wife and I got married, we each have a bunch of books, and we only own 2 books in common. And one was called Mindset, and one was called Learned Optimism. Because she's an educator and I'm a business person, so we had novels and things. But the concept of learned optimism is something I really appreciate you bringing into this conversation, Hunter. And what a cool story. So we're going to talk about how the two of you intersected. So what happened after college, and why are you sitting here with Hayden?
Yeah. I left school and I decided after 1 year at Indiana, I wasn't doing well. And I knew if I wanted to, I was at a really bad place. And I ended up writing my parents a 2-page letter and mailed it to them, letting them know, like, I had made my decision up. Ultimately, if I still wanted to be on this planet, I needed to make a change and I had to take it. I was really lost at that time, and I moved home. I haven't lived with my parents since, when I went to college, I moved out. So I'm very independent and always paid my bills and, learned all that stuff. And so I'm moving back home for the first time, 1 year in Indiana. I'm telling you, I got the hell out of there. I packed my car up and I drove the last day of school, and it wasn't right. I didn't handle some of those. That goes back on mindset and kind of relationships. And like my teacher, I thought a lot of him, and I didn't handle that right. And I didn't treat people the way I should have. And that's on me. And that's just something I can't change it. So all I did do is move forward. And I changed myself. Let's put it that way. I'm a completely different person. But I moved back. I had called already while I was in Indiana. I was in hotels. Like I said, I almost didn't go to grad school. I was going to go into management with the company I was working at in hotels in college in Charlotte. So I called him and I was like, they loved me. I kept working at hotels while I was in grad school part-time, front desk, just because I enjoyed it. Loved talking to people. And a called them. They opened up a management position for me at a Hilton property at the in Charlotte near the airport. So I'm living with my parents. You know, they were awesome. It's just I need to live by myself. So I quickly moved back to Charlotte. Probably, I don't know, 1 to 2 months, maybe 3 months after coming back, and started my management career in hotels. And that was big. I mean, I think they created a new role for me, guest service manager. I was in that for like maybe 3 to 6 months. I can't remember at this point. And I got promoted to assistant general manager, was that for a little while. And then my dad's been in hotels my whole life. He was out of Utah. He had bought a portfolio, and one of those hotels was the Courtyard at the Charlotte airport. And he called my dad asking if he knew anybody who, could be a good general manager. They were looking to hire somebody. And my dad's like, well, my son's an AGM in that market. So I interviewed for that. I was 25 years old, got the job, thought I was rich, $87,500 salary, 30% bonus. I'm like, oh, I'm rich, baby. I got it. And then that wasn't the case by all means. And the stress and stuff.
Well, you could be. I mean, you could choose to make that rich.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe if I was more financially literate when I was younger, having the decisions on vehicles and things like that.
I mean, that's not a bad way to get rich right there.
Yeah. It was nuts. So I ended up getting a call back from the guy that I went to that hotel for 2 years, get this big thing that just blew everybody's lives up. It was called COVID-19. So GM was awesome for the first 3 months, and then COVID started and it was rough, but I got through it, ran that hotel right at 2 years, and got a call from the guy I worked for at college. And he's like, I got an opportunity in Charleston, South Carolina. I want to move you down there. And at first I was like, nah, man, I'm in Charlotte. I'm an hour away from my family, my parents, my brothers come up every weekend, watch, football or the fights with me. Like I really missed a lot of that with undergrad in Indiana, but ultimately he gave me more money, and I made the pack, which is the best decision I ever made, because it was all part of this process of me growing mentally, hands down. I told that hotel I was at for 2 years in Charlotte. My regional manager was the most optimistic man I've ever met. Zachary Peck is a phenomenal guy. He would just come to the hotel, and I'm struggling. We have no staff. We're, cut all our vendors out. I'm doing the damn landscaping of the Marriott. I'm cleaning rooms. I'm doing everything. Like, it was a struggle. And I remember one day, like, the sliding glass doors at the beginning of at the front of the hotel broke. And I'm like, that is my night auditor is the one position they let me keep, the overnight person. But we're near the airport, right off Billy Graham Parkway, not a good area in Charlotte. And they're not going to want to work if their one security source, structure is broken. And I was flying in. I wouldn't rip the sensor off. I'm trying to wire it. I'm on Google, YouTube, trying to figure out how to rewire this thing and see if I can fix it. And I remember Zach would just walk in always, like, things would be so hectic, and he'd have the biggest smile, and he's just like, hey guys. And I'm like, dude, why are you smiling right now? This shit is bad, dude. Like, why are you doing that? And he's the one that told me that circumstances are uncontrollable. And then he said, you should read a book called As a Man Thinketh. And I looked up the book. I respected him so much that I actually went home that night. I didn't read it. I had done the audio book. We were going somewhere. And it was so funny because I heard that phrase I said about circumstances being uncontrollable. It was in that book. Yeah. And that was really when it was a lot about, it was like a pocket book, for survival guide for men. It was written in 1902. Yeah. And that's when I started understanding. I'm like, nothing's changed here. Maybe surroundings in life, we got a lot of negative stuff around us. But at that point, when I read that book, I would wake up in these moods where you don't want to tackle the day. You're being negative already. My whole thing was, let me blast some music and get pumped up in the morning, and I'd be rocking it, screaming, getting some good music going. And then it was it took a few months, but being consistent with that, next thing you know, I'm looking back and I'm like, I've been waking up in some pretty good moods here lately, not going there. I think I say that because, people go through different things and it's tough, but you can rewire how you think, and you can control and change. And a lot of that goes with really looking at your life. What are you procrastinating on? What are you fear on? And sometimes what's the worst thing that can happen? That's the same thing that goes in sales. I think Russ, you had Go for No. Great book, but it's essentially what it's talking about. You're scared of failure or rejection. You're going to let 2 letters hold you back from all you want in life? No, but it's scary, easier said than done, but it's all about the mindset, kind of getting in there. But sorry for that. I ended up moving to Charleston.
funny story. This is, I mean, when we like,
where does Hayden come into the story?
It was insane because I had just moved down there myself. I was in the Navy. We had just gotten married. Similar thing with COVID. We just moved into our house, and I had just lost my dad. So my dad had just passed away. And so my mom was like, "Hey, you know, I would like to move down to Charleston to be around you, because there's not really anybody else that she knew up in Hickory where we were at." And so we're looking at houses, and just for the heck of it, we're going to go tour this other neighborhood. And lo and behold, we walk into the model home, and we're looking at through the stuff, and then Hunter walks in with his people, and we're just like, oh my God, we haven't seen each other since high school, you know? And so it's been, 9 years?
It's been almost 10 years.
Yeah, like it had been almost 10 years since we had seen each other. And then we're both, you know, shopping for homes. You know, I was looking for my mom, and he's looking for himself, and we just recollided. And so I was like, oh, what do you do? And just kind of like follow each other again, and just got plugged back in. And then I knew you were doing hotels.
That was like 4 years ago? Had to be because I've been it was
2020. And so I knew you were doing hotels, and you know, you had probably been seeing me online. And then I was like, you know, you're like, oh man, I'd love to, you know, join you. I'd love to work together. And I was like, dude, you're telling me like I need $100,000. I need $100,000 a year. And I was like, I know you're the best salesman. Like you listen to him talk. He's been talking, like he's got the gift of connecting with people. And so I was like, he will be the best salesman in Charleston. Like I just know it. I just need to get him. I need to get him on the team. And so I told him, I was like, hey, when I have $100,000 of your salary, I'm going to set it aside in a bank account. And whenever I have that, you can know that you can, you know, uproot your life. You know, you're not physically moving, but you're going to change everything you're doing. And you just take this leap of faith with me. But in order to feel secure, I was like, I need to make sure I have your salary set aside, because that's a decent salary to pay when, you know, on a gamble.
Someone who knows nothing about real estate.
Yeah. And so, Hunter, you know, didn't really know anything about real estate. And so, a couple years had passed. We continued to just kind of, you know, tiptoe around that conversation, connected a few more times. And then, Hunter just calls me one day. He's like, dude, I'm done. He said, I don't care what you pay me. I just need to change what I'm doing right now. And so he was having a rough go with the hotels, didn't like it, and wanted to change.
Yeah. I think I told you, you give me this to cover my mortgage and my car payment, and I'll start in 2 weeks, or I'm coming over to you.
Yeah.
He was like, shut up. I think I remember you're like, dude, I lose sleep over this, trying to figure out how to get you in here.
Yeah.
And we got drinks literally that afternoon, like met it, and I'm like, oh, dude, I'm on. And it was scary as shit, because I come from, I mean, that was my comfort, you know. But my wife had started, she's an attorney, and that was the hard part, is like, I always relied on my job, and you have that fear of losing your job and so on, because you're getting by the, you know, hair of your ass through everything. And finally, when she started working, that was a big lift, because I'm like, you know, if I lose my job, because hotels are, you know, they don't have to have a reason to fire you ultimately. That actually happened to me once. I mean, I went through, I'd never been written up, nothing. And then I don't know what the politics were of it, but I got a 1 week notice of improvement, and I was like, it really shocked me. You know, I was like, what the hell? And kind of sticks in the back of your head sometimes, you know. It's a big fuel and drive for me, because I know who I was as a manager. You know, I was very optimistic, and I was working on growing people too, and, you know, staffs like that. But we went through some hell with some shit. Hotels I took over that I was cleaning up and going through some stuff, and yeah, it was rough. And I got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. That's why I sat down. I had one last altercation at work, and I was literally shaking. So I was so pissed off, and I was like, dude, screw this. And we had been talking, and, you know, I was like, he talked to me, you know, selling me. You got the sales too, brother. Steve was always.
I sell myself, but
we need some funny hotel stories. Some crazy hotel stories.
Tell them the one. I mean, this was kind of opened my eyes. Was it Christmas with the big freeze that happened?
Oh, dude, just stuff like that. We went to North Carolina, my wife and I, for Christmas. And that's the hard part. My wife hated it. She's like, you know, my wife's from New York, so all of her friends are up there, and say a wedding. And she's like, you know, we're going to this wedding. I'm like, I can't go to that wedding. And she's like, what do you mean you're off on the weekend? I'm like, I might be off from not going in the office, but if that hotel, that's my asset. If it catches on fire and my ass is in New York, I'm not going to have a job. And there were so many things where, like, she started getting upset. You know,
that's not funny. That's horrible.
Yeah. It sucked. Yeah. It was awful, dude.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
And I ended up Yeah, we were home for Christmas. It was Christmas Eve, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying. I'm already anxious because I'm out of town, man. Even being,
You never had any drunk guests doing weird shit in the lobby? I mean, come on.
oh, dude, there's tons of, more so batshit
That's
crazy.
what I'm looking for.
People die and everything out there in those crazy.
God, okay.
It's insane. But no, like water bust. I get a call and like 3 floors of the hotel are flooded because we had that freeze here in Charleston a few years ago. That was real big. Right around Christmas. Yeah, my rank ass hotel, damn copper just snapped. I think it was copper line. I don't know. But dude, flooded 3 rooms out. I mean, we get shit like downtown Charleston. You get drunk kids. Like, here's a funny one. All right, so
Okay, here we go.
So we're at the front desk and I got cameras and this chick calls me working overnight. She's like totally shook and she's like, you just need to go check the camera at this time. And so I pull the camera up and like, you got this like angled down camera, like front desk and then like the elevator and there's 2 bathrooms. This dude comes off the elevator butt ass naked. I mean, and I call her back. I'm like, was that dude? Did I just see that right? Is he like butt ass naked? And she's like, Hunter. And he was just in the bathroom. She's like, he's still in the bathroom because he couldn't come out. I don't know if he was like sleepwalking, like drunk, like what. And then that butt ass naked man, like you see her walk out, like throws a towel at him because he like cracks the door. You know, they're scared because they're the only ones there at that time.
Right.
So she doesn't know what's going on. But I'm like,
Get hurt by the crazy
damn
drunk
it, man. Like,
naked guy.
it was always that stuff. Like the butt ass naked thing was crazy. I mean, you get cars stolen out of your parking lot and like people breaking and entering, you know, those are the tough parts about the business. Like you don't have any control over that, but you know, and it's a business, you know, and that was a tough life, man. 24/7, 365. I mean, I remember I went on my honeymoon where we were on a cruise actually, and I'm like dying because I wasn't talking to people and I didn't know what was going on. The minute we pulled into wherever we were going, like I got cell reception. I'm like calling. Did not help because I called this kid because my AGM didn't answer. I called this kid who was not the most positive person. Good kid, but I'm like, hey, how's everything going? He's like, not good. And then I lose reception and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to
No. So you're cut off at the end of not good?
Oh yeah, that was it. Like no more cell reception.
No.
So I'm like, oh man, like this is awful, like bad. And I got a lot of respect for that stuff though, man. Like that is a very underpaid position. I watched my dad. He's a beast, you know. We connected a lot on that too. We got to go to Vegas together for the Hilton convention, which was really cool.
Sure.
Actually, him and my middle brother are both GMs for the same company. So they're flying to Orlando right now to go to that together. So we always connected. You know, I got a lot of that was able to carry in though, like customer service. I know a lot about operations. I work
tie that into what you do now as far as the lessons learned from being the best of the best.
Yeah.
So you were a great football player and an injury ended that. You were a great singer, actually, one would argue the best singer from the things that you won. And then you go into the hotel business and you're in the weeds and you're in the mud and you're in the shit.
Yeah.
And so then you transition over to working with Hayden. And I've been fortunate enough to watch that. So tell us real quick about the lessons you've learned there, and then let's get Hayden's backstory too.
Yeah. No, I think you have to work hard in hotels, you know, and that's something with the customer relations. That was always my bread and butter. I mean, I could have a talk with anybody and sit there and, you know, I extended stay hotels, man. I was like, I had them cooking food for me, and as I was a college and, you know, kid in college, it's relationships.
You worked at an extended stay?
Yeah, Homewood Suites. And
I'm familiar with that.
Which those people were awesome, man. I mean, you had some weird stuff. You got like gypsy families that were in the asphalt business that, you know, the kids don't go to school and they're just, you know, they're 5 years old laying some asphalt, but they cook some good damn food. So they're cooking meals for me and things like that. But it was, you know, I know how to problem solve too. I think that was the biggest thing when I joined Hayden. Yep. He had this group of people that were, you know, they wanted everything done for them. They weren't willing to figure stuff out. Because ultimately, when I joined Hayden, I didn't have training. You know, Hayden was running around with his stuff. It's, you know, here's this, and essentially figure it out. And luckily, I wasn't, you know, from what I had, I was the person who figured stuff out at hotels. I was responsible for that business. I made the decisions for that business, and that what carried in here. And I knew, you know, I wasn't one that, you know, they pay me to manage a business. They look at my P&L. If I'm not meeting their standards on what we, you know, our KPIs for, you know, whether flex and flows or performance based, then you fire me. You know, but I don't need to call my regional manager to ask him something that I can look up on a system or learn how to set up myself by calling somebody else. So when I got in here, that was the biggest thing. Obviously, my sales and my ability, I think that's just a natural thing for me is people trust me very quickly when I have conversations with them with my outgoing personality. I'm a chameleon, so I get along with everybody. But really coming into this, and I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of podcasts, educating myself. So it was really hard in the beginning stages of like setting everything up. And then I hear things and I'm like, yeah, we should put this into action. This psycho, some bitch right here, like he is crazy.
He's actually going to do it.
Well, I'm like, I'm not a huge risk taker. Like, he's grown me so much. I owe you a lot. And you know that. I tell you that all the time. Cause like Hayden's like, he gave me this opportunity. I've done the work, but like the rooms he's pushed me to be in, like first time I met you, Russ, man, that was scary as shit. I went into real estate, REI with him. I didn't know anything about real estate. I still decided, and I'm like, I go up to Russ and like start talking, and I hear one little thing about him being from Rocky Mount. I don't know where I heard it from. So I went over there and that's how I start my conversation. It's exactly what I do when I go and meet sellers for the first time. I don't talk about the deal. I don't. It's a big development deal we got.
It's all about the human connection.
That's it.
And I putting words in your mouth, but I feel like working in the hospitality industry, especially a hotel, it's that human connection of,
Oh yeah.
what's happening with this person, what's happening with all the people around. And I think that's been extremely valuable for you in talking to sellers. So let's talk about Hayden a bit.
Yeah.
And get to know, we kind of heard some of your high school experience. Did you go straight from high school to the Navy or?
Yeah. So basically we did football, we did wrestling. Wrestling was my thing. I was, when I started at that program, we had a new Marine. He was our coach. He was a Marine, super hard headed, just absolute stud, just like a great man, like up there with Steve Irwin, like there's a couple people in my life. There's my dad, there's Steve Irwin, and there's Coach Carey, like that's fucking it for me. Like I have very few people that I hold to a high standard.
I love it.
This guy was such a good man that there was 7 dudes on the wrestling team when he started. He comes in, it was my first year at that school and his first year at the school. And then it kind of felt like we built the program from there to where like every single year, I was from Pennsylvania, which is a big wrestling state. And so I come in and I'm automatically like one of the top guys. I was decent, but I come in and I'm a freshman and I'm winning. And that was unheard of, especially with a team of, 7 dudes, like we didn't have a program at all. And so we built it from scratch, started up a program in the middle school, had them coming up, by our junior year, I was wrestling for the state championship. So in 3 years, our team had grown to over like 50 some people. We won states, as a junior, which was insane. I was wrestling for first and second place as a junior, which was, and I didn't have it paved our way. We kind of built it. It wasn't like I walked into some big program. We walked in and we were the underdogs until we weren't. And then we won state. And then I broke my hand my senior year. And this is a funny story. It was in practice. I was ranked number 1 in the state. I was arguably the best in the state. I was like 50 and nobody could even touch me. And I break my hand in practice. I hit my hand on Nick Rottenberry's foot, and so I broke my middle finger in my hand. And there's only a couple weeks or months left to states and stuff, and so I'm like, I'm out for the season. My senior year, best. That really sucks. And so it's like a week before the regional tournament to actually go to to actually go to states. And I look at my coach. I was like, I think I can do it. I don't know, he's like, do you want to do this? I was like, let's do this. And so he takes me to I called it a cowboy doctor. And so he had a cowboy hat on. So in order for me to get approved, I had to get the school board's approval to actually wrestle with an unhealed broken hand. And so I go to this cowboy doctor and we walk in. He's like, what do you need me to sign? The good old boy, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I get this medical clearance slip that this guy just signed, didn't even look at me. And then my dad fashions up this cast out of like some type of, synthetic material. Like he kind of molds a cast for me essentially.
Yeah.
And so I have like this little like thing that I made and it's bandaged up. It's essentially a club. My whole hand was a club. And so I go in and we go to the regional tournament and I win the regional tournament with one hand, which was like, for me,
literally with one hand tied behind your back.
Yeah. So I'm going into the finals at this tournament And this guy, my opponent, grabs my broken hand and twists it. And the
Oh,
ref is like, whoa, like what the like, and so that's like what I had to overcome. And so you talk about mindset and different things. I think I was supposed to go through that experience instead of
yep.
me just sweeping it and winning first and, having a cakewalk all the way to the podium. I had this obstacle in my way. I always say that was one of the best things to happen to me because in order to like get ready for that tournament, I had to lose 18 pounds in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So in wrestling, like it's all about weight
And you were
and
already
constantly.
fit, so it's not like you were a fat guy who had to lose weight.
They put a plastic bag on me. They roll me up into the mat like a hot dog, and they put heaters on both ends and they bake me. And so I'm getting cooked alive so that I can lose all this weight. And so I lost 18 pounds in 3 days. I win first at regionals. I go on. I ended up placing like third in the state with one hand, which was
Oh my
just
God, that's
so
incredible.
humbling. And it was such a better, so much of like a better experience for me because I sat there when they were doing the parade of champions and I was naming every single person out on the on the podium that I had beaten or pinned or like severely won against. And I was like, oh, like I clearly would have won, but it's okay. Like this is how it was supposed to be. And
Yeah,
so
sometimes circumstances prevent us from being exactly where we want to be,
yeah,
and that's where this learned optimism and the determination comes in.
yeah,
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And I needed that. I think I needed that to humble me, and then set
Yeah,
me up for the next stage of my life. And so then I also wanted to go to NC State. I wanted to be a landscape architect.
Yeah.
And that the year I went to apply, it was my whole plan. That was my only plan. Landscape architecture, NC State, everything was good. I had decent grades, whatever. And the year I applied, they dropped my major. And so I'm like, okay. So that was the only college in North Carolina that offered that major. And so I
wow.
was like, well, now I have to go out of state. So I went to Clemson here in South Carolina. I went to Virginia Tech. I love Virginia Tech, but turns
Yeah,
out, like you said, $100,000 to go to school. And I wasn't
yeah,
smart enough to get a full ride. I wasn't poor enough to get any type of assistance, but I didn't make enough money to actually be able to afford it. So I was
right.
right there in the middle class sweet spot where I looked up, I couldn't do it. And
Yeah,
so we're like, well, let's do community college for 2 years. And so I go, I apply, I get my books, and then I go to the first day of class and I walk in and there's this probably 35-year-old Hispanic lady sitting next to me with grass on her sneakers that she clearly like just got off of a job. Like she might have been a landscaper. I don't know, but I judged her. I was like, and for me, I was like, I wanted the college experience and I felt like I got slighted in life. I was like, I was supposed to do this. I can't do that. Like I was so mad. And so
yeah,
I saw everybody around me. It seemed like a lot of people I like wouldn't connect with. I was like, all these people just to go to a community college, it just wasn't for me. I got really upset and I was like, I was expecting to go to like go around and be like around a bunch of, 18-year-old kids just like me that,
right.
but I wasn't. I was around kind of like the dropouts out of high school. It felt like I'm sure they're all great people, but I was pissed. And so that day I dropped out. I go to my dad and I was like, I'm joining the military. I was like, I don't care. No, I'm not doing that. And so I made that
Yeah,
decision one day with zero plan. I was like, I'm going to join the military. So I just thought to myself, I don't want to get shot at. And so I'm not going to go to the Marines or the Army. And I was like, well, let's go walk in. I walked into called the Air Force, called the Navy. Air Force didn't call me back, but the Navy did. And so I tested, got,
there's a nugget. There's a nugget right there.
yeah,
You joined the Navy because the recruiter called you back. You called the
yeah,
Air Force and the Navy, and you joined the one that called you back.
exactly.
And you were smart enough to go in the Air Force. You were strong enough to go in the Air Force. I mean, there's no difference in you. It's a difference in the response from you went with the guy that called you back. In our business, that's so critical. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but that's so critical about seizing opportunities. The Navy recruiter, I assume it was a recruiter,
Yeah,
called you and said, "Hey, man, let's talk."
exactly.
Air
I went
Force
in.
was silent.
That's exactly what it was.
Yep.
Just call me back. So I went in,
Yep.
tested like a 90 something, probably like 96 on the ASVAB, which is, they're like, oh my God, because
Yeah.
they're used to a bunch of brain dead kids walking in there. And so,
Yeah.
got a high score. They're like, hey, you could be a Navy SEAL or you could be a nuclear rate, a nuke is what we slang call them. And so, I was like, I had my fun as a wrestler. I don't want to do a Navy SEAL.
Right.
I don't need to. That's not for me. I have hung
Right.
those shoes up literally and figuratively. I am done with the
Yeah.
torture some days, and it was so tough. But I made it through. I was lucky enough to push it through. There was some touch and go moments where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to pass this test or whatever it is. And I graduate, and then I go to my first duty station, which was on the West Coast. I essentially just looked at, my family. I was like, well, I haven't experienced the West Coast. I've only been on the East Coast, and I know
Right.
I know what that's like. I would love to, explore, see if
Join the Navy, see the world, right? I mean, that's the
maybe I'll
point.
like California, maybe I'll like Washington or Seattle or who
Yeah.
knows, And so, I get stationed in basically Seattle, Washington on the USS Nimitz, which is the carrier. Went there, and it's the oldest aircraft carrier in its class. It's like 50, 60 years old or some shit. And so I go there, we train on that, we get her fixed up, and then we go on some deployments, drop some bombs, go to war. It was super fun. I mean, I absolutely loved going out and launching
Playing war.
doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I bet that was cool.
Yeah. And so I did that and then came back here, and then I could talk for hours on kind of, what that went like from there. But I
Well,
came back and got a knack for real estate. So, yeah.
so what's fun in the Navy look like, or funny stories about Navy
Oh,
life?
man.
Apparently beating the shit out of each other.
It's bad. Yeah, no, like you're not supposed to talk about hazing, but we hazed each other, So it's like there's let's decide where I'm gonna draw the line here. So basically for any major event in our little community, people we would celebrate. And so like if somebody graduated or somebody had a birthday, we would beat them up essentially, like not literally beat them up, but we'd like punch their legs and, just rough them up a little bit,
Right.
So, it was definitely on the borderline of like camaraderie versus not, and so,
Hey,
so
in college,
I,
I got accidentally put in the hockey dorm,
yeah,
and my roommate was a center on the football team, and he and I were random, and it was like a war. And we didn't really hurt each other, but pretty close. I mean, it
yeah,
was, as you said, roughing somebody up.
yeah,
And I love the military. I mean, we just did it as a blind ambush, but the fact that it was done for a purpose, like, oh, you've made this accomplishment, you're going to get roughed up.
yeah.
I like that. I mean, it's a
It definitely made
it's a
us
weird male
extremely tight.
bonding thing.
It was definitely we were extremely tight with each other. We had some of the best relationships I've ever forged, or obviously
Yeah,
are
I
there.
love it.
The one takeaway from deployment among all of the crazy shit that happened was connection. I
Yeah,
think there's no such thing as phones and like social media. I mean, there was, but like you had to go to the office, and then us enlisted folk only had certain hours of usage for the internet. I mean, we're out at war. We're
yeah,
dropping bombs. So you can't
right,
just
right.
log into Facebook, and so we did have internet access, but you'd have to log in at like midnight or something. And so like you're
Yeah,
fighting everybody in your division to go log in. And so you didn't. Everybody just disconnected. Moral of the story is everybody was just disconnected from their phones, and they were forced to interact with each other. And which I loved that. And I
yeah,
loved connecting with people that you fortunately or unfortunately were forced to talk to. And
right.
so I was the senior person on like my watch station, and I was in charge of, 10 different kids. And I have to sit there for 4 to 6 hours and talk to these people, and so
Yes.
it's nothing else to do but talk about whatever we can talk about for 6 months straight, or the same watch team for 6 months. We're sitting there sometimes twice a day for 6 hours a day, on watch together. We're just looking at a gauge, looking at a couple things, like doing our log
Yeah,
set, whatever it is. And so you make really, really deep relationships with people. You create games, you do these fun things. We sit down and we play poker. We did so. I learned how to cut hair. I became a barber, and so I just had,
really.
it was,
I did not know that about you, Hayden.
Yeah, so you need a nice little fade. I can fade you up and give
I,
you a
I
nice
love a good fade.
haircut.
Let's
Oh
go.
yeah, that's right in my wheelhouse.
Ah,
But
I love it.
that's one of the things I think in society we're lacking today is just the personal
Yeah.
connection. I think that's going to be the downfall of our society is just the detaching from human connection. And so that's what I loved about being in the military was just, hey, we were unplugged the whole time.
Yep. I love it. So I'm hearing from both of you a lot of excellence, a lot of struggle, a lot of things that you thought were going to work out that didn't work out. And that's real life, folks. A lot of shit that I hoped would work out didn't work out. And how do you carry that into what you do today? Let's tie it all together. So Hayden, leading you first, talking about spending hours on watch with somebody and making that connection and learning how to talk to people and learning skills like cutting hair, or how do you tie that into what you do now?
I think not necessarily military, but for me, and I think a little bit of Hunter as well for his story is, our backs were against the wall. We kind of, we had to make some big decision in our life. Like it was either like we kind of burned the ships, like we had to, I had to be successful or there was no other option. And so for my story, one of the major pieces of who I am today is the loss of my father. And I saw him essentially work a W-2 style job until he passed away young, and so he passed away young, and I feel like he missed out on what he deserved. He deserved time. He never got to meet grandkids and, like all of these things.
How old was your father, Hayden?
Low 50s, I think maybe like 52,
Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so for
Younger
me,
than
it was
I.
sudden. It was sudden. It was unexpected, and so we,
Okay.
it was a great relationship, and just have that yanked out for me was really tough. And I looked at the way his life kind of played out with working a W-2, and I was like, I feel like I want to have as much quality time and be able to provide everything I want for my family and have nobody be able to dictate how my life is going to go. So I didn't want to rely on somebody retirement account for some job I'm working for 40 years and then I'm working away for somebody else. I wanted to create my own thing. And so I had to forced me to there's no other way. I have to pave my own path. I can be bankrupt 3 times by the time I'm 50 and I still be ahead. And so it's like I don't care. Like when he says I'm crazy,
that's the psycho part.
Like I'll just.
That's completely unreasonable.
Yeah. I just figure it out. I'm not scared. Like
that gets to be a running theme in this podcast. Is we're not reasonable people. That's completely unreasonable, and I totally agree. So, continue. I interrupted you.
Yeah. And so I know I just like Hunter had his realization with hotels and his story that he told, where he kind of just had to make a decision. And I think for both of us, it was just, there's no other way. There's no other option for us. The risk that I forced Hunter to take some risk in his career now, but it's just we have to do it. And we took what we learned I was in charge of a bunch of sailors and a nuclear reactor, and he was in charge of hotels. And we took those learnings and just doubled down, and poured into it. And it's turned out phenomenal. I think one of the best parts about our story is I hired you the week that wholesaling became illegal. I think that's one of the craziest parts of how this all worked out, is that the biggest change in our industry in the last 30 years happened the week that he got hired. And he's sitting there and I'm like, we were figuring it out together. And that makes our story that much better.
I'm at the gym before the first day. I'm listening to Wholesale Hotline, and I was on the elliptical, and I'm listening to the episode that dropped on Sunday, and that was Monday morning, and states are starting to crack down. Like South Carolina just made it illegal. I'm like, oh shit! Like I just because
So your new job just became illegal.
Was totally it took so much. It was a huge, I was proud of myself once it was done, but I was scared shitless because I just wasn't, secure salary, know what I make every 2 weeks, not knowing to do that. I knew I wasn't happy. And I think both of us are the type of people, we're never happy with what we have. I speak for myself. I always want more. And I battle these two people in my head because part of me is old Southern boy who's, I just want to be able to take care of the family and, do that. But at the same time, that's not true because I always want more. And that's the truth. What that looks like, I don't know. It might kill me. I don't know. Like going through, but
I'm going to stop
I
you
would
there. I'm going to
do it.
stop you there for a minute, because this is in our masterminds and in our coaching, listening to my coach or coaching other people, and in the masterminds when we spend the day together, one of the most difficult things can be, we're so ambitious. Can we be content? Can you be content and ambitious at the same time? And I've met a few people that I can see them turn it on and off. So the ambition has a place, and the ambition is critical. And none of us on this call can exist without the ambition. I mean, you take away the ambition, I'll just go jump off the bridge. I mean, we're not doing that. But can we find contentment with ambition and switch it on and off? And you guys have little kids.
I think that's,
Yeah.
to that point, I think that's one of the biggest things for me is I listened to Brandon Turner on Bigger Pockets podcast, which I think is kind of every real estate investor's like first go to. And one of the things he said, I remember it from years later, is he's like, when I had kids, it forced me to scale up. It forced me to actually look at what was going on, be really cognizant of my time, and my business grew after I had kids. And I always thought, I was like, there's no freaking way. I was like, I am an animal. You tell me that I'm going to work less and I'm going to grow the company. There's no way. And I think that's one of it kind of played out. I have a 10-month-old, Hunter's got a 3-month-old, and it forced me to look at how I'm spending my time and looking at who's around me and putting the right people in the place. I'm like, Hunter's stepping up, and he's growing the team, and, I'm hired some assistants. I hired another executive assistant. We hired we're all of these people that I'm bringing into my life are because so that I can delegate it correctly. I have to trust people. I have to allow them to have that runway. And it's allowed me to, now we're scaling up. We just hired 3 people this week. And so it's, that was a very big takeaway on like, it actually came to fruition on like, now I'm allowed to spend more time. I take Fridays off, to spend time with the kid.
I love it. Well, and I think we need to schedule a second podcast at some point in the future and maybe get more into things like these boundaries.
Yeah.
And how can you just, run at full speed and then turn it off?
It's hard. That's a hard thing to do.
Here's an example of when my girls were little. I have a bunch of kids, but my youngest 2 were little. I would get up at 5:30 in the morning, do my workout, do my meditation, and I would work until about 10. And then I was off at 10. And then I would come back on at about 4 and work a couple of hours. And I was with my kids. And then my ex-wife, who was in the business with me, she took that. She would get her workout in, and she would do the middle of the day. And then we had dinner together every night. But then there were some emails and things to answer after the kids went to bed. So we sectioned our days off. And I'm not saying it's not a prescription. It's an example of one way you can do it. Taking Fridays off. I mean, that's another way to do it. So there's just all kinds of ways to balance that so we don't lose our minds. Well, tell us about what you're doing in the business now. What's your primary focus? We've talked about 90% about personal stuff. So let's actually talk about the business that you guys are running together.
Yeah. So right when Hunter joins, wholesale law becomes illegal. I had a team of people that are gaslighting me. If you're familiar with the term gaslighting, they just, they were saying, we need this, we need
not
this.
Getting dark. What do you mean it's getting dark in here? It's not getting dark in here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's getting dark in here.
Yeah. And so they're like, oh, we need this. And, you walk in the office every day and the atmosphere was wrong. It was just the wrong people in those seats. Nothing against them, but it's just they weren't the right players for where we were headed. And so when I brought Hunter in, he redid everything. He looks at our marketing spend. He looks at how we're doing marketing. He's like, hey, here's my idea. It'll be $8,000 a month. I was like, cool, here you go. Here's $8,000, and so, hey, I think we should do this. It's going to be 6 months of 6 months minimum spend for this marketing channel. It's going to be $10,000 every single month. I was like, cool, there's $60,000, and so he's giving me these ideas, and then I see it start to play out, and I look at, what he was able to do, and I just kept pushing into it, leaning into it, letting him take charge of how we ran. Essentially, I mean, to boil this all down, I have an acquisitions company. You know, we're always looking for deals. So we're in real estate looking for deals. Hunter's the spearhead of that. And so he's running that. He's got some people underneath him now, and he's built out these marketing channels and has refined them and continue to make sure they're operating at peak efficiency. And now we went from doing, I don't know, like maybe 30 deals total in the last 3 years to we did 100 deals in the last in like the last like 12 months or something. Like we just took off.
A couple months.
Took off. Yeah.
That's the future, baby.
Yeah. So now we have how many people do you have, Hunter?
We got 4 under me. Is it 4? No. I got 3 guys in acquisitions. We got 2 dispo. We're working on hiring transaction out now too. It's really, I mean, the whole thing we're trying to do is we're building our brand. I mean, Hayden's done a good job. I mean, all of this, and you go to these events and they talk about building a brand, which is primarily why we're putting a lot into like Google and building our things. Cause a lot of the marketing we're doing, it builds our competition, pay-per lead. We're pouring money into a company doing Google and Facebook and all this. But if our competitors are using that, we're helping fund this company that's getting bigger and bigger, and then they're going to get better options. So the whole thing is like, we're in a big pivot too. I mean, we've pivoted we did a lot of virtual stuff coming into Charleston more. Hayden's like, dude, our biggest rips, we're here. And the ability of Hayden to raise money as he builds his brand, it's amazing because we are at a point to where if we need to buy something, it doesn't matter what it is, he'll raise money like that and we can close on it. And that opens you up because like a lot of these, I love the hotels now. I mean, some of our biggest things of, something that maybe we would have done a good rip, a $50,000 assignment, but we buy it, get another, private money he's raised, put 20, 30K into it in 7 days, like the one we did, and make $100-some thousand, like that ability, like a little bit more time, but shit, I'd rather make 6-figure profit than 50 grand. There is a fine line between fast money and, but that's the ability, is to be able to raise money. And we're buying more stuff now, which is, I'm in a transitional period because I like fast money, but it's like, it just makes sense where it's like, there's not as much equity in deals as there, even in the last year, stuff's been difficult. I don't know the reason why, but pivoting, we moved everything kind of to our home base, which is a lot more in-person appointments. We're an inbound, acquisitions company most for. So we're usually the first person these people are talking to. So I have to be very cautious about giving prices out, because if people aren't educated on what a cash offer is, and I go spit something that's, $400,000 off of what they expect they're going to get, they're not going to talk to me anymore. So it's really, I'm finding myself having to schedule probably 5 to 6 in person, good leads that I'm not going to go waste my time and go somewhere if it doesn't, pencil out and we're, a good opportunity.
It kind of comes down to the way, like what Hunter does really well is he can analyze a deal, underwrite a deal, and the architecture, there's no script, there's no magic pill. He builds a relationship, and he can very quickly decipher if there's any opportunity there or not. And so he's always maximizing his effort with people of, hey, like I'm just on the phone with this person that's clearly not motivated, doesn't want to sell. And I can hear him. I listen in the office all day while the conversations, and he'll be like, hey, I think you really should list with a real estate agent, and he's constantly,
I don't waste time anymore.
Educating.
That's the thing. It's on to the next big time, filtering through what's worth your time and what's not. When I first started out, I was nervous. I wanted to have conversations, and you'll stay on the phone for an hour with something that is nowhere near not going to be a deal. So now it's like, I'll look at something extra because you're not going to change somebody's mind. Depends on motivation, those key pillars on a deal, if it's going to be good or not. But I told my guys, I'm like, listen, this is something I figured this out. Hayden gave me a script. I threw that fucker in the trash can within like 10 minutes, man. I was like, I feel like
insubordination.
I was cold calling at times when I first started, and I'm like, trying to read this script. I'm like, no, I wanted that fuck. Yeah. I'm like, no. So I just started like some like chill, like I'm like, who am I? I'm Hunter
You're going
Aldridge.
to delete this part of the podcast because we can never train acquisitions people.
Country guy there. And I'm like, so I switched up the script shit, and then I'm calling people, and like they answered. I'm like, hey, how are you doing today? I'm doing good. Is this blah, 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 whatever name on it? Yeah. Hey, my name's Hunter Aldridge. I'm actually a local investor here in Somerville. I just wanted to call and see if you had any property or land you're looking to sell today. Nice country accent. And I started going from, F you, go die reactions to, even if they're saying no, I started getting a lot more like better conversations and stuff. And that's why I teach these guys when they come in. I'm like, the most benefit you're going to get is being around me and Sledge, being in the office, seeing us talk to people. Because that was the thing about like when Rob started. Rob is super hungry, comes out of the Army as well. He's not somebody that you have to micromanage. Like he's hungry and he's ready to go. Didn't spend a lot of time. Like, it was him being beside me. And I've learned this in hotels too, because I was very good at talking to people. People that worked with me, I would start hearing them reciprocate things that they heard me saying and interactions. And I knew that that's where I came through. I'm like, okay, you're not going to get a script. We got another new guy. My brother just joined us actually Monday. He's in North Carolina. He joined the team. So he's coming in. He was doing life insurance sales. But he's the same way. It's the ability to have a conversation. No one can teach you how to do this or have an interaction. It's not going to be good the first time. You have to learn, no one can prep you on scripts and stuff like all day. Even having a conversation in the office, practice makes better. But at the end of the day, you have to go through these circumstances to learn how to navigate that and figure it out. Because that's exactly what I did. And it sucks for them because they got a little bit of tough love, because that's exactly what I did I didn't have, you weren't training me. I bugged the shit out of them how to underwrite at first for like the first month. And then what changed my point and more contracts, Hayden looks at me and goes, brother, he's like, just get it under contract. We've done enough examples, like just go and do it. And I needed that empowerment because I had this whole thought process of, this isn't my company. I'm not going to go get a contract signed. He's like, there's a reason why, you got to learn. So when I started, and underwriting is a huge key in this. I get a lot of people that tell me, F you, I'm not taking that offer. And then a month later, they call me back because they took, an offer higher. Russ, I'm sure you've been through this, but they call me back and they're like, you were right. Like, how much are you interested in? And I'm like, well, let me take a look. I'm still right here will work. I know I can get it done right here.
The other buyer wasn't legit and you are legit. And
I
how
think
much
one of the
what's the
biggest
price?
thing for you to kind of take off on the ramp and just go for it is, you were coming to me. He was coming to me a lot saying, hey, like, can you underwrite this deal? What about this? He was nervous because it wasn't his own money. And I had to kind of force him to think of like, these are the numbers, like trust yourself. And I had to give him the power. I said, you do not come to me to underwrite a deal. That's taking away. Like, I don't need to yank the rug out. I don't need that control. I need him to be able to underwrite a deal himself. And now he's amazing at it and he gets good deals and we don't have to terminate contracts. We don't got to get reductions because he underwrites it correctly. He sets the expectations, and I've given, empowered him to like train himself over these many deals. And now he has that power. And so now he doesn't have to, and now it's faster and everything works smoother. I could have made it to where as a business owner that I was like, all the deals have to run through me. I got to approve all the offers. No, the second Hunter sends me a contract, I make sure it is formatted correctly and I sign it. I don't need to comp it because I know he did it right.
Right. Can anybody do this?
It goes through me usually.
What do you mean?
I think talking about anybody under.
I mean, can you train anybody to do this?
I think, well, so I guess I don't know how you want me to answer that. I'll answer how I think you want me to answer it. I think when I first
I don't have an agenda. It's an honest question.
When I first started as a business owner, I just hired anybody that would work for me. I was like, if anybody says that they raise their hand, they say, hey, I'll work for you. I hired anybody. It didn't matter. They just had a heartbeat. And I didn't have the track record to be able to hire an A player like Hunter. Hunter is like A player, like the definition, ambition.
Well, that's clear.
And so that's, once I had built the track record and I brought in A players, I only bring in other A players at this point, and the newest guy we just hired, I said, go have a meeting with Hunter. If you don't fit with the team, if Hunter doesn't feel good about it, I did my interview with him and now he met with Hunter and Hunter's like, hey, this guy's it. I think this is who we need. And so it's you're able to train the people once we kind of figured out what that person looked like. Once I knew who had the sauce, yes, they can be trained. And if you want something bad enough, you'll go and do it.
Yeah, you got to be willing to. I think that's with this type of job is when I first started, Hayden was out of town and I got in the office and I had to make money. I'm like, my base, it ain't where I can be. I'll get by for 6 months or so, but I need to make money. And I got in here and these dudes were doing absolutely nothing. I mean, I sat here, I literally sat at my desk and I was like, what the hell is my job? What am I doing right now? And I'm messaging him and he's like, I'll be back Wednesday. And then he gets back, we did nothing. And finally, when he gets back, daddy's home, we start turning on the dialer. I remember they made one dial and weren't training me or nothing. I just said, I'm going to do this. I jumped in because I'm like, I need to learn what I'm doing. And, there was no guidance and that stuff didn't last long because of the laws and stuff. The team reduced pretty heavily, pretty quickly. I figured it out. And that's what I tell all my guys. I'm like, listen, you work for yourself, essentially. You've been given the tools, which is a lot of money for these good leads that are coming through and things like this. This is something that it's the experience and the education you're going to get from this process. But I can't call for you by yourself. We had a guy that was going to help us out from another area. And I spent 2 hours of my time on web calls, telling him how to pull foreclosures, doing some stuff. And I'm like, you got to make the phone call. Daddy can't do the phone call for you. You got to do it. And you got to learn. You're going to learn by doing. I call him every day. I'm like, hey, did you make them calls? Oh, I still can't make my first call. I'm like, dude, I went to him. I'm like, this guy ain't got it, man. He can't. You have to be self-motivated to want to make money and to go in here and to talk. And that's the good thing about like freaking Sledge is that was my coolest thing is like, and Russ, this is one of the big reasons I wanted to get out of hotels. I saw my own capabilities and I worked for a big company. My last company, it was out of Alabama and I'm in the room with like 200 GMs and director of sales. And I'm that guy working the crowd, like talking to like the hotel staff, like the next morning at breakfast, I'm like, hey, blah, 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 by their name. Like, how you doing? And they're joking with me, like talking to everybody. And I would see my abilities to converse with people and communication. And I caught myself a lot of times, like I said, the point, I always think I want more. And there's a fine line of that, but I said, I think I'm destined to do more. What can I do more? I need to be in sales. I need to be doing something to where I can go use my gift of the jab to go talk to people. I'm a great connector and doing that. That was the big reason kind of going in there, but you got to be able to go in here and be self-motivated. I can't do it for you. And that was what I was connecting at. The people that worked for me were amazing people in hotels, but there is a difference of people, who making $10 to $15 an hour for their entire life. You got some very rare people who just enjoy cleaning rooms or working breakfast, things like that.
Yeah.
But you don't have like overall, you're not talking about very motivated people who have big goals. I tried to actually teach that in the hotels of having goals. Don't compare yourself to other people. Whatever you want to do in life, go do it. But I wanted people that were like me. Loyalty was hard to find because you're not paying people to be loyal in businesses like that. A lot of turnover, roller coaster. If things might go good, you get a good, golden star who really helps out for a few months, but then they want more money. You can't do it because you're on a tight budget. Hotels don't, they don't cash flow as much as people think they do when, it's really like a rental property on steroids. And a lot of that goes back into the investment.
I hear that.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I was interested in sales because I was like, you look at a salesperson, like how you have to be to make money. Cause you can come into work and not do anything. You ain't gonna make no money. So you already got a driven person or they're not going to last very long.
Have you heard Tony Robbins explain a great salesperson?
No.
A great salesperson. Tony Robbins, I was a sales manager for a little bit. A great salesperson is the right mix of ego and empathy. If you have too much ego, everybody's going to say, this guy's a dick. I'm not working with him. If you have too much empathy, you're going to take no for an answer when you should not take no for an answer. If you can balance that ego and empathy, and I hear that from both of you, like crystal clear, that you care about people, you have empathy for people, but you also care about yourself, your organization, your partner, your business, your family. There's that balance of ego and empathy is one of the best things I ever heard when I was learning to sell and teaching other people to sell.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And keeping that as I like formulas. To me, it's not a formula I can write on a blackboard, but you understand that that's a balance of things. So those kinds of things are really exciting to me. And I've heard this through the whole podcast today is, the opera and the wrestling and the broken hand and the kind of broken dreams with the, things didn't quite go the way. And there's that ego and empathy working together, because if you have no empathy, nobody's going to work with you.
Yep.
So I love it. we're going to wrap it up, but we're going to do this again because this has been fantastic, and would love to catch up with you guys in the future.
Absolutely.
So it is time. Ryan's signaling to me. Ryan keeps me on track with everything. You don't know Ryan's here. Ryan is with me every time, and he's doing hand signals and all sorts of things to keep this thing rolling. And you printed it on the back of the paper, so I have to flip the page over. You're going to have to edit a bunch of shit out on this one, dude. So I want to thank Hunter Aldridge and Hayden Albert for being with us today. This has been incredible. I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. You can find the Blue Cup podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called now. Our website is goodfaithpropertysolutions.com. And we'd love to have your comments, positive, negative, things that you'd like to hear in the future. So if you're with us and you're watching, I want to thank the audience for sticking with us. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and let's do some business.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining the Blue Cup podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
He went to a bar, refused to shine, didn't buy no beer, and said, I'll tell you what, my name is Russ, and I'm on the mic, so listen to my podcast show. Russ might say a thing or two that you don't want to hear, tell you what he's thinking, share some good ideas. He's got some rowdy friends, he's gonna have them on the show. If you need some information, Russ will tell you where to go. If you feeling down or feeling mighty low, Russ will talk about money and watching that money grow. His name is Russ. He's got the microphone.